the promise made by a billionaire who never stopped loving his black women. 15 years after she vanished from his life, a billionaire still keeps his promise, until fate brings him face to face with the woman who broke his heart and the daughter who needs his love to save her mother's life. Welcome back, my wonderful family and friends. If you're tuned in and ready to dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Tomorrow, I'll be bringing you another exciting story you definitely don't want to miss. So, let's get started. The rhythmic beep of the heart monitor was the only sound in room 214. Ava Thompson's eyes fluttered open, heavy with exhaustion. The morning light painted pale streaks across her brown skin, thin and fragile now, her once bright eyes dulled by too many years of surviving instead of living. She watched the ceiling as if it could answer the question she had stopped asking. How did I end up here? Outside her room, the world went on. Nurses chatted softly, wheels squeaked, laughter rose and fell. None of it reached her. Inside, silence had become her most loyal companion. Her daughter, Maya, entered quietly, a cup of coffee in her trembling hands. "You didn't sleep again, did you?" she asked, her tone trying to sound firm but breaking halfway. Ava smiled faintly. "Hard to sleep when your body keeps reminding you it's tired of fighting," she whispered. Maya set the cup down, blinking back tears. "They said the donor list is still slow. But, Mom, you're gonna get better, okay? You have to." Ava reached for her daughter's hand, feeling the same softness that used to comfort her through nights of screams and slammed doors. "You're my heartbeat now," she murmured. Across the city, sunlight hit the glass towers of Cole Industries. Ethan Cole, CEO, billionaire and self-made ghost, sat in his office overlooking Atlanta. His assistant spoke, his phone buzzed, his empire moved, but he didn't. His gaze was fixed on a single photograph on his desk. A woman laughing under a summer sky, her hair wild, her eyes full of fire. He ran a thumb across the image like a prayer. 15 years hadn't dulled the ache. Success had filled his world with noise, but none of it replaced her voice. Everyone said he was heartless, but only he knew that his heart had been buried with her goodbye. He had made a promise once. "I'll wait for you." Foolish, maybe, but he had. His watch ticked, steady, measured, echoing the same rhythm Ava's monitor played across town. Two hearts beating apart, unaware that the world was quietly stitching their fates back together. That evening, Maya returned home to find her mother asleep, a pile of old letters spilling from a drawer. She gathered them gently, yellowed paper, faded ink, until one caught her eye. The handwriting was elegant, familiar somehow. "My Ava, if waiting means I'll find you again, I'll wait a lifetime. You once told me love isn't about time. It's about truth. My truth is you, Ethan." Maya pressed the letter to her chest, tears streaking down her cheeks. "He's real," she whispered. "You weren't lying." In that moment, a spark of determination lit in her young heart. She didn't know who this man was now, or where to find him, but something inside her believed he was the missing piece. Love had waited 15 years. Maybe it was time to bring it home. If you were Maya, would you risk everything to find the man who once loved your mother, or let the past stay buried? Tell me what your heart says in the comments. Maya had never stepped inside a skyscraper before. The air inside Cole Industries smelled like money, ambition, and something else, distance. The kind of distance her mother had carried in her eyes for years. Clutching the old letter, she rode the elevator to the top floor, her reflection staring back at her with quiet defiance. The receptionist's tone was polite but guarded. "Do you have an appointment with Mr. Cole?" Maya swallowed hard. "No, but he'll want to see me." When the elevator doors opened again, she stood before the man her mother had once loved. Ethan Cole was older now, sharper around the edges. His presence filled the room like gravity. He looked up from his laptop. "Who are you?" Maya hesitated, then stepped forward and placed the letter on his desk. "My name is Maya Thompson," she said softly. "You wrote this to my mother." The moment hung like a heartbeat. Ethan froze, eyes tracing the paper as if it were a ghost. His chest tightened. "Ava?" The name broke from him like a prayer he'd whispered too long. "She's alive," Maya continued, her voice trembling. "But she's sick. Really sick. The doctors say she needs a kidney transplant. She doesn't have much time left." The billionaire's composure cracked. His mind swirled. 15 years of silence, and now this? "Why are you here?" he asked, his voice low, almost afraid of the answer. "Because you promised her you'd wait," Maya said. "And she never stopped loving you, even when life hurt her too much to come back." The office fell into silence so complete that the hum of the air conditioner sounded like thunder. Ethan stared at her, the world tilting beneath him. He didn't know this young woman, yet something in her eyes, fierce, golden, unbroken, felt achingly familiar. Ava's eyes. "I need you to help her," Maya whispered. "Please." Ethan stood, slowly, the weight of 15 years settling across his shoulders. "Tell me where she is." That night, rain slid down the hospital windows as Ava stirred in her sleep. A strange calm filled the room, as though something beyond pain had arrived. Across town, Ethan sat in his car outside the hospital, unable to step out. His reflection stared back from the windshield, an older man haunted by younger promises. He opened the glove compartment and pulled out a ring, the one he'd meant to give her 15 years ago. He whispered, "You said love was about truth. Let's see if mine still matters." Inside the hospital, Maya stood at the window, unaware of the man parked in the shadows outside. Watching, remembering, gathering the courage to walk back into the life he'd never stopped waiting for. Would you forgive someone who disappeared for 15 years if they came back when you needed them most? Share your truth in the comments below. Ava woke to the soft hum of the hospital's night lights and the faint murmur of her daughter's voice outside the door. She caught fragments, words like billionaire, promise, and he's here. A chill ran through her. When Maya entered, her face glowed with quiet excitement. "Mom, I found him," she whispered. "Ethan Cole. He's in Atlanta. He wants to help." The cup in Ava's hand trembled. Her breath hitched. "No," she said, her voice sharp. "You shouldn't have done that, Maya." Maya blinked, confused. "But, Mom." Ava turned her face away, tears threatening to spill. "You don't know what you've done. Some doors stay closed for a reason." She could still feel his presence in her memory, the warmth of his hands, the way he believed in her when no one else did. But that was another life, a better woman's life, the Ava who used to dream, laugh, and believe she was worthy of love had died long before her body began to fail. "I can't face him," she whispered, almost to herself. "Not like this, not broken." Across town, Ethan sat alone in his penthouse, replaying the image of Ava's daughter. The same brown eyes, the same stubborn lift of her chin. He'd asked his driver to turn back twice before stopping at the hospital, but each time, fear stopped him. What if she hated him? What if she'd truly moved on? He poured himself a glass of scotch, but the taste burned differently tonight. He wasn't sure if it was guilt or hope clawing at his chest. When his phone buzzed, he expected his assistant. Instead, it was a hospital message. Visitor access denied by patient request. A bitter laugh escaped him. Of course, she didn't want to see him. He told himself it was fine, that he'd done his part. But deep down he knew it was a lie. In the hospital hallway, Maya argued softly with the nurse. He came all this way, she said. He deserves to see her. The nurse shook her head. Your mother refused. She said she doesn't want to reopen old wounds. Maya pressed her palms to her face, frustrated. They're both so stubborn. Inside, Ava stared at the ceiling, her heart heavy. He doesn't owe me anything, she whispered. He gave me love once. That's more than most people get. But the truth she wouldn't say aloud was simpler. She was terrified. Terrified that if she saw Ethan again, she'd break open completely. That night, Ethan stood outside the hospital gates, rain pooling at his feet. He looked up at her window, one light glowing faintly behind the blinds. He whispered into the night, "If you don't want to see me, I'll respect that. But I'm not walking away again, Ava. Not this time." Somewhere inside, as if she heard him, Ava turned her head toward the window, feeling a strange comfort she couldn't explain. Two hearts, separated by pride and pain, began to beat in defiance of their fear. Do you think Ava is right to push Ethan away? Or should love be brave enough to face the past? Drop your thoughts in the comments. 3 days later, the hospital corridors buzzed with tension. Ava's condition had worsened, her blood pressure unstable, her transplant status upgraded to emergency priority. The air smelled like antiseptic and fear. When Ethan arrived that morning, determination burned in his chest. He had spent the last 72 hours calling every medical contact, offering donations, arranging transport, anything that might save her. When he reached the reception desk, his voice was firm but calm. "Tell Dr. Patel that Ethan Cole is a registered donor. I've been tested." The nurse blinked. "You what?" "I'm a match," he said simply. Within an hour, word spread through the ward. And when Maya entered Ava's room that evening, she could barely contain her tears. "Mom," she whispered, clutching her mother's hand. "He did it. He's your donor." Ava froze. Her heart stumbled. "No," she breathed, her voice trembling. "No, he can't." But before she could finish, the door opened. Ethan stepped inside, wearing the blue visitor's gown, his eyes locking on hers for the first time in 15 years. For a moment, the machines, the lights, the air all went silent. Ava's throat tightened. "Ethan." He smiled faintly, though his voice cracked. "You haven't changed as much as you think." Her tears fell before she could stop them. "You shouldn't be here." "Too bad," he said softly. "I've waited too long not to be." Hours later, as paperwork and pre-surgery tests kept them both in the same ward, their silence became its own conversation. Ethan sat by the window, flipping through a magazine he didn't read, while Ava pretended to sleep. Every once in a while, their eyes met, and it felt like being pulled into a memory they weren't ready to relive. In the stillness, Ethan whispered, "You could have told me." Ava turned her face away. "And what would you have done, Ethan? Left your empire to chase a broken woman with nothing to give." He exhaled. "I would have chased you. I always would have." Her hand trembled beneath the blanket. There it was again, the raw truth she'd buried for years. The nurse interrupted, announcing visiting hours were over. Ethan stood, his eyes soft. "I'll see you tomorrow, whether you want me here or not." When he left, Ava pressed her fingers to her lips as if holding back a confession. For the first time in years, her tears weren't born of pain. They were born of remembering what it felt like to be seen. Outside in the hallway, Maya watched Ethan walk away. Something about the quiet strength in his shoulders told her what her mother hadn't. This man wasn't here out of guilt. He was here because he still loved her. If someone who once broke your heart came back to save your life, would you let them? Tell me your honest answer below. Night settled heavy over Atlanta, the city lights casting golden reflections through the hospital window. The machines hummed softly beside Ava's bed, keeping rhythm with the quiet ache in her heart. Ethan sat in the chair near her feet, his jacket draped over the backrest. Neither had spoken for nearly an hour. Finally, Ava broke the silence. "You shouldn't have done this," she whispered. He looked up. "Given you my kidney?" "Showed up," she corrected. "Opened everything I tried to close." Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Why did you leave, Ava?" he asked, voice low but steady. "All this time, I thought I did something wrong. I thought you stopped loving me." Her fingers tightened around the blanket. "You didn't do anything wrong," she said. "You were perfect. That was the problem." He frowned, confused. "How can love be a problem?" She took a breath, each word like glass in her throat. "Because I wasn't the woman you thought I was. I grew up believing love was something that got taken away when you didn't deserve it. You gave it to me so easily. I didn't know how to hold it without breaking it." Ethan's expression softened. "You ran because you were scared?" Ava shook her head slowly. "I ran because I was pregnant." The words hit him harder than he expected. His body went still. "Pregnant?" She nodded. "With Maya. I found out 2 weeks after you proposed. And then, my mother died. I lost my job and I didn't know how to face you. You were building your empire. I thought you deserved someone unbroken." Ethan's jaw clenched, emotion flooding his voice. "You took my child away from me, Ava." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I know. And I'll hate myself for it until the day I die." The silence that followed was raw, alive with 15 years of pain and love tangled together. Maya, who had been standing by the door unnoticed, covered her mouth as tears fell freely. She hadn't meant to overhear, but she couldn't move. Ethan finally looked toward her, then back at Ava. His voice cracked. "All these years I blamed myself. But you were just trying to protect us." "I was trying to protect you," she said, "from the mess I was becoming." He reached for her hand, tentative but real. "You were never a mess to me, Ava. You were my peace." For the first time in years, Ava let herself weep openly. The dam broke, not from sorrow but release. In that small hospital room, truth became the first step toward forgiveness. If you were Ava, would you have told the truth years ago? Or done the same to protect the person you loved? Be honest. Drop your thoughts below. Morning sunlight filtered through the blinds, brushing across Ava's face. Her eyes fluttered open to see Ethan sitting beside her, half asleep in the chair, still holding her hand. The sight made something inside her ache, not with pain but with memory. "You stayed," she whispered. He smiled faintly without opening his eyes. "I told you, I'm not leaving this time." For a moment, the world outside their room didn't exist. No machines, no hospital scent, no years between them. Just two souls who had once loved each other enough to last a lifetime. Ava tilted her head. "You shouldn't have waited for me, Ethan. You could have built a life, found someone new." He finally opened his eyes. "I built an empire," he said. "But every time I looked at it, I wondered who I was building it for. And the truth is, it was always you." Tears shimmered in her eyes. She tried to laugh, but it came out as a broken sound. "You're still terrible at letting go." "Guilty," he replied softly. "You're still terrible at believing you deserve love." She blinked, the truth of his words hitting deep. Later that afternoon, Maya joined them, carrying 2 cups of tea from the vending machine. She handed one to Ethan. "I don't know what to call you," she said with a nervous laugh. "Ethan? Mr. Cole? Dad feels too soon." Ethan's throat tightened. "Ethan is fine," he managed. "For now." Ava watched them with quiet awe. Her daughter, standing between them, was the living proof that love had never died, only waited for its chance to heal. Maya looked from one to the other. You two are the most stubborn people I've ever met. But maybe stubborn love is the only kind that lasts. Ava reached for her daughter's hand. You sound just like him. Maya grinned. Guess it's genetic. Laughter filled the room, light and genuine. For the first time, it didn't sound forced or borrowed, it was theirs. As the day faded, Ethan leaned closer. You know, he said quietly, you once told me that love wasn't about perfection. It was about choosing each other, even when everything else falls apart. I did say that, she admitted. Guess I forgot to listen to myself. Then let's start listening again, he whispered. She smiled, eyes glistening.
Ethan, I'm scared.
I know, he said gently. So am I. But maybe fear just means it matters. Their fingers intertwined, steady and certain this time. The past hadn't vanished, it had transformed. In that small hospital room, love found its rhythm again. Slow, tender, and real. Do you believe love can truly heal old wounds? Or are some scars too deep? Share your heart in the comments. The air in the hospital turned heavy again. A kind of stillness that comes before heartbreak. Ethan had just returned from a meeting with the transplant board. His steps were slow, his expression unreadable. Ava watched him enter the room and instantly felt the shift in his energy. What is it? She asked, voice trembling. He hesitated. The surgery's been delayed. Her heart stumbled. Why? They ran another test, he said quietly. There's a complication with my blood pressure. The doctors think it's too risky. Her eyes widened. Risky? Ethan, what does that mean? It means they won't let me do it. Silence fell between them, not peaceful but suffocating. Ava's fingers gripped the blanket. You promised, she whispered, her voice cracking. You said you wouldn't leave me again. I'm not leaving, he said quickly. I'll fight this. She cut him off, tears streaming down her face. You'll what? Risk your life for me? You've done enough, Ethan. You've given enough. He stepped closer, desperation burning in his voice. You're worth the risk, Ava. No, she cried, her voice echoing off the sterile walls. I won't let you die to save me. I can't. The nurse rushed in, startled by the raised voices, but Ethan waved her away. His chest rose and fell sharply as he looked at the woman he'd loved for half his life, and realized love might demand a sacrifice he wasn't allowed to give. Outside in the hallway, Maya stood frozen, listening. The sound of her mother's sobs pierced her chest. She wanted to fix it, to make both of them see that love wasn't supposed to hurt this much. But when she entered, Ava turned her face away, and Ethan's eyes glistened with defeat. Maya looked between them. You two are unbelievable, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. You finally find each other again, and the first thing you do is tear it all apart. Do you even hear yourselves? Neither spoke. She wiped at her tears angrily. You always said love was about fighting for each other. Well, fight, Mom. Don't hide behind your fear. And you, she turned to Ethan, don't walk away again just because it's hard. Then she stormed out, leaving silence in her wake. Ava turned her head toward the window, whispering, maybe she's right. Maybe I don't know how to love without breaking something. Ethan's jaw tightened. Maybe that's what love is. Breaking and rebuilding until it becomes stronger. Her tears shimmered in the light. I can't ask you to risk your life. You're not asking, he said softly. I'm offering. But when she closed her eyes, turning her face away, he finally understood. This wasn't about permission. It was about fear. The promise they'd rebuilt began to crack under the weight of love too heavy to carry. If you were Ethan, would you risk your life for the person you love, even if they begged you not to? Drop your answer in the comments. Night fell like a heavy curtain over the hospital. Rain tapped against the window, a quiet rhythm that mirrored the chaos in Ava's chest. She lay awake, watching shadows slide across the ceiling, her thoughts circling the same impossible truth. Ethan could die trying to save her. In the next room, Ethan sat in the dark, elbows on his knees, the donor form still in his hands. His mind replayed Ava's words again and again. You've done enough. You've given enough. But he couldn't accept that. Not when he'd promised her 15 years ago that he'd always protect her. And that promise still pulsed through every heartbeat. He picked up his phone and called Maya. I need you to convince her to let me do this, he said, his voice raw. Maya's silence lingered. Ethan, maybe this isn't your fight anymore. It's always been my fight, he said. If I walk away now, I'll lose her again, and this time she might not come back. Maya sighed softly. Then you'll have to make her believe love doesn't have to destroy her. At dawn, Ethan entered Ava's room. Her eyes were red from crying. Neither spoke for a long time. Finally, he pulled a folded letter from his pocket and set it on the table beside her bed. What's that? She asked. My will, he said quietly. In case something happens. Ava froze. Ethan, listen, he said gently. I know you're scared. I am too. But I can't live knowing I didn't even try to keep the promise I made. Her tears fell freely now. And what promise was that? He leaned close, his voice trembling but sure. That I would love you enough to fight for your life when you couldn't. Ava reached for his hand, gripping it tightly. You're asking me to choose between saving myself and saving you. How is that fair? It's not, he admitted. But love never promised to be fair. It only promised to be real. She let out a broken laugh through her tears. You always find the right words. He smiled faintly. Maybe because you're the only person I ever wanted to say them to. The silence between them turned sacred. The rain eased. Outside, a faint sunrise began to glow, fragile but steady. Ava finally whispered, If I say yes, if I let you do this, and something happens to you, he interrupted softly, then I'll still have kept my promise. Her body shook as she whispered, Then yes. Ethan closed his eyes, relief flooding him. For the first time in years, the past loosened its grip. Love had won not through perfection but through surrender. Would you let someone risk everything for you, even if it meant losing them? Comment your thoughts, love or fear, which would win in your heart. The morning of the surgery dawned clear and quiet, as though the universe itself was holding its breath. The air inside the hospital seemed softer, reverent. Nurses moved gently through the corridors, their voices hushed, their eyes full of quiet understanding. Ava sat upright in her bed, fingers intertwined nervously. The gown felt too thin, the world too fragile. Maya sat beside her, clutching her mother's hand tightly. Across the hall, Ethan was being prepped for surgery. Mom, Maya whispered, her voice trembling. He's really going to do it. Ava's eyes filled with tears. I know. You could still stop him. She looked toward the door, her voice breaking. I won't. Not this time. Maya swallowed hard. You really love him, don't you? Ava nodded slowly. I never stopped. Even when I tried to forget. Maya's eyes shimmered. Then maybe love was never about time. Maybe it's just about choosing again. Ava smiled faintly, pressing her daughter's hand to her heart. You're wiser than both of us. Hours passed. Machines beeped. Doors opened and closed. And then silence. When Ava woke, the first thing she saw was sunlight spilling across her blanket. The pain in her side was sharp but alive. She felt alive. Maya stood beside her, tears streaming down her cheeks, smiling through them. It worked, Mom, she whispered. You're going to be okay. Ava blinked rapidly. Ethan? Her daughter hesitated. He's in recovery. The surgery went well, but he lost a lot of blood. They're keeping him sedated for now. Ava's heart clenched. Take me to him. Hours later, weak but determined, she was wheeled into his room. He lay there, pale but breathing, his chest rising and falling with effort. Tubes and wires surrounded him, but his hand, the same hand that once built empires, still looked strong. Ava reached for it, tears spilling down her face. "You kept your promise," she whispered. His eyes fluttered open at the sound of her voice. A slow, soft smile curved his lips. "You're here." "I'm always here," she said, brushing his forehead. "You saved me." He shook his head faintly. "You saved me first. You made me remember what love is supposed to be." Ava leaned down, pressing her forehead to his. "Then let's stop running from it." For a moment, neither spoke. The machines hummed their quiet approval. Outside, the morning light grew stronger, golden and new. Weeks later, the hospital discharge papers lay signed. Ava walked out into the crisp sunlight, her steps still careful but sure. Ethan waited beside the car, cane in hand, smiling at her like a man seeing color for the first time. Maya stood a few steps away, capturing the moment on her phone. "You're really walking beside me this time?" he teased. Ava smiled. "No more goodbyes. Just beginnings." He reached for her hand. "That's a promise I'll never break." Together, they stepped into the sunlight, healed, scarred, but whole. The promise that once broke them had finally brought them home. Do you believe love can wait 15 years and still come back stronger? Tell me in the comments if you think true love ever really dies. Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.